What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys filming right here, downtown Detroit, where my office is. It's a phenomenal city. It's absolutely incredible. Every comment that I see happening on social media as a result of the things that I post and the things that I have up there, because I pay attention, right? And I'm looking at certain things operate, and I'm looking at how people respond. And the interesting thing about it is that guys get triggered just as much as women, but the specific type of guys that get triggered are very similar to the women that get triggered. And let me give you a little bit of insight, right? So the women that get triggered is usually black women. Now, I can make a conversation and I can have a conversation about women specifically, but usually the ones that get the most emotional or respond a certain type of way or feeling a certain type of way, they black women, right? Now, why is that, right? Because, and I was telling somebody this the other day, and I said, listen, if somebody say, Anton, I can't stand this certain demographic of guys, you know, they broke, they dusty, they got a whole bunch of kids out of wedlock and whatever, so on and so forth, it may be some truth to that. And so when they speak to it, I understand them, but I can't relate. So it's never going to make me feel a certain type of way, and it's never going to trigger me, and it's never going to mean anything to me as a result of it, because they not speaking to me. It's not impacting me. So now you have to ask yourself one of two questions, right? A, why are black women specifically so triggered? Because those aren't even public enemy number one right now. I used to think that black women that were bothered by or were the worst for our communities, but I was wrong. Admittedly, I was wrong. It's not black women that are the most triggered or the worst for our communities. It's not. It's the simps. Since the beginning of time, you know, women largely, and I agree with a lot of guys, wow, it's amazing type of progress that they're making on the Hudson site. Y'all can't really see it, but that's okay. Since the beginning of time, women largely had no power until they start being empowered by a group of horrible men that then enabled bad behavior. And then they started banding together when the guys realized that, you know, they no longer served a purpose in these women's lives, because the women started aligning with other women that more closely aligned with how they thought. And that's when you seen feminism really rose to prominence, because you had a bunch of simps that enabled bad behavior. And really, it wasn't even the first wave. It was the second, third, fourth wave, all of that other type of stuff. When you start seeing simps enable bad behavior is when you really start seeing a takeoff of what it is that we see happening in our communities. You see a lot of women raising single mothers, raising horrible leaders, whether they're men or women. And then what that translates into is your voting patterns, your voting rights. Women are largely the ones that determine what happened in our national elections. They're the swing voters. You see so much bad behavior that does not translate into the things that's the best for us long term. And then they want to invite us to the table. As far as these simps, they want to invite a bunch of people to the table, me, you, everybody else that may have a vested interest in what happens in our communities. And then along with that, they want to invite a bunch of women in order to have a conversation that's not even living a life that's best or conducive for the direction that we going in. And so now we enduring through, or we're suffering through, the worst of what it is that we've ever had to endure through in society. And I'm not even talking about, you know, physically or anything like that. I'm talking 100% based off of the environment that we creating for our kids, right? People are not going to be able to really come together and build a relationship or build a community based off of husband and wife. Everything is going to be based off of partnership, right? Even when you see women talk and you see men talk, I'm starting to see men say this also. They say things like, yeah, and when you're looking for a partner, what do you mean looking for a partner? Am I that far removed from cultural norms to where I don't say looking for a partner. I say you should be looking for a wife, or she should be waiting on her husband, right? Are we so far removed from biblical principles? Are we so far removed from the way in which we're supposed to operate? Or have we gotten so far away from the thing that made us great as black people, which separated us as a culture and as a community, and even more importantly, as Americans, right? Like, our borders is open. You got leaders like Kamala Harris literally going over to Ghana and advocating for alphabet community rights. That ain't what they want. The people have already spoken and they said, listen, that's not what we want. That's not what we're interested in. But we force our ways on other, and then we reinforce those behaviors by the men that then say, yeah, protect all women, even if they wrong. Don't hold them accountable. How can you protect somebody that you can't hold accountable? You can't even protect your kid if you can't hold them accountable. If your kid go out and they running into traffic, you can't really protect that kid from that 3,000-pound missile that's riding down the street. You know why? Because real protection is telling that kid that you shouldn't go on the street in the first place. And so you can't protect somebody that's unwilling to listen. You can't protect somebody that don't have your best interest at heart. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, women have largely been keeping men under the thumb of what it is that's best for them for an extended period of time. But the support and the love and the appreciation and the admonition all come from the men that enable the bad behavior. And so if you want to get to the root of the problem, then you have to look at both of them. You got to look at the men that enable the bad behavior, and you got to look at the women that subject us to the bad behavior. And anything less than that, anything less than being absolutely honest and transparent about what it is that you're dealing with as an individual, you create an environment that's going to be less conducive for your child. I'm telling you. If you don't nip it in the butt. Actually, I'm going to be honest with you. It's already too late. It's already absolutely too late. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. You're not going to reverse, gay marriage. You're not going to remove anybody's right to vote. You're not going to ever do away with anything. The only thing that comes along with that is rebellion and revolution, and I advise against that. I'm not all for that, right? Because I can recognize somebody's rights as a human, but I can absolutely disagree with the behavior. So, what am I recommending? Because I never like to talk about something without actually providing a solution. Then that just means that you're whining and complaining. What I recommend to guys, specifically, guys that have a backbone, guys that never had a father, but they're starting to wake up and understand and see things for exactly what it is, I recommend to you, completely remove yourself out of the equation and save yourself. Spend overwhelming majority of your time and overwhelming majority of your effort distancing yourself away from the problem, and then putting every single amount of effort and resource into you. No, do not marry a single mother. No, do not get married without a prenup. No, do not put yourself in a position and then have to suffer at the hands of the family court system or all of these laws that they protesting against. Think about it. They'll advocate against updating family court laws that would then enable us to be equal in every way with regard to family specifically. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that if they really truly wanted equal? And why wouldn't people hold them accountable? Because most times people don't really care or pay attention to what's best for them until they suffer as a result of it. Why would they advocate against that? Think about it for a second. Do not put your... My father always told me, Anton, you don't have to go through it or suffer through it in order to pay attention and not put yourself in a position to have to deal with it. All right? Be smart, be wise. Don't put yourself in a position to suffer as a result of it, and stay away from it completely. Just remove yourself from it. Ain't no putting the genie back in the bottle. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you later. Peace.